Every day, we have to make decisions about what we spend our time doing, where we go, and how we spend our money. And while we like to think that we think for ourselves, we are, in truth, still simple creatures, instinctual, illogical, and irrational. We can't help it, nor can we help being influenced by the world and people around us. Consider a night out with friends. You all want to go somewhere good, somewhere different and exciting. So, you go to the club you've seen with a queue of trendy types running down the street. After all, if it looks popular, it must be good, right? Or it's time to do something about those love handles, so you take up tennis. Again. But before you can start, you need to get all the right gear. The shoes, the racket, the sweatbands. It's crazy expensive, but you're serious about your new lifestyle, and after all, if Nadal uses it, it must be the best, right? And it's this kind of understanding of how people are influenced and influence others that help us, at Arena, look at advertising differently. It's something brainiacs call behavioural economics, which means, in a nutshell, we're letting the study of consumer behaviour inform the way we advertise. In fact, we think behavioural economics is so important it's now at the heart of our planning process, making Arena the first UK agency to start thinking differently about the way our clients approach current and potential customers. Well, that's all fine and dandy, you might think, but how do we apply it quickly and easily to your advertising campaign? Well, with the help of some smart peeps at Bournemouth University, we developed our very own planning tool called Architekt. It's a clever program that makes applying behavioural economics as easy as... well, it's easier than it sounds. Architekt asks a few strategic questions about your product and what you'd like to achieve, then identifies which of the 9 key behaviour models the campaign should focus on to get the best results. It's a great tool that distills some pretty big thinking into bite-sized nuggets of wisdom. And it's having this power to anticipate and change what people do that gives us at Arena and our clients a very clear advantage. Herding. Herding looks at how a desire to copy or follow other people's behaviour influences an individual's decision-making. For example, when you have to pick a restaurant, you're more likely to choose a busier restaurant than a quieter one because it suggests it's better, even though it might not necessarily be the best. Marketers often conjure up images of the herd in communications, guiding the audience with slogans like "Thousands are coming back to British Gas" or "We're the UK's #1 job site." Framing. Framing looks at the way our perception of something is determined by the context in which it's seen. For example, an everyday object in one environment might be considered mundane, but when placed within an art gallery can be sold as a piece of provocative art. The same can happen with products and brands. Think of how Range Rover turned itself from a functional, country-based vehicle to a luxury, urban status symbol. Or how Lucozade reframed itself from a medicinal tonic to a sports drink. Diffusion. Diffusion theory describes how behaviours, started by a small group of people, trendsetters, are eventually adopted by the mainstream. For example, if the cool kid at school starts wearing an eye patch, you can be pretty sure everyone else will want one too. Think about how celebrities are given freebies in the hope that they'll be spotted with them, or consider what rappers have done for Cristal. Source credibility. Source credibility refers to how people are more likely to be influenced by a believable and trustworthy source. For example, we're more likely to consider food to be of a higher quality if endorsed by a celebrity chef. Think of Jamie Oliver's endorsement of Sainsbury's, or the benefits Shell enjoys from Ferrari, insisting it's all they recommend. Confirmation. Confirmation looks at how we love being right and how we'll look for things that reaffirm our choices. Think of how BMW drivers feel being reminded that they own the ultimate driving machine, or how L'Oreal justifies your indulgence and brand loyalty by stressing you're worth it. Nudging. A nudge is a strategic device that can trigger seemingly unplanned decision-making, such as impulse buys. For example, if something's readily available and can be rationalized, we're more likely to take advantage of it. Think of the confectionery and other items piled around checkouts, or how you're offered fries and a drink with every burger you buy. More often than not, you say yes. Created pressure plays a large part too. We're often more compelled to go to a sale if it only lasts for a short period or only has a limited stock. Chunking. Chunking describes how we prefer information split into chunks, making it easier to process, learn, and recall. The simplest example of this is the way we break down phone numbers. Like how this becomes this. The same applies to jingles and catchphrases, which present information in a playful and memorable way. Our own work for the DVLA helped people manage a complex registration process by offering step-by-step instructions through a series of YouTube videos. Anchoring. Anchoring describes how we make decisions based on a few known variables, rather than processing all related information. In other words, following a general rule of thumb. Like when buying a second-hand motor, many people use price, the car's age, and mileage to gauge how well the car might perform. This is why brands hype certain features in order to distinguish themselves in a saturated market. Think of how Apple focus on their winning aesthetics, or how Volvos were considered ugly, and yet people still bought them because they were the safest cars in the world. Loss aversion. This model focuses on how we prefer avoiding losses to acquiring gains. In fact, psychologically, it's been proven that losses are twice as powerful. A good example of this is how, when share prices are falling, we're more likely to sell to avoid future losses than we are to buy at a low price and potentially make a profit in the future. Loss aversion exploits this behavior to win new business and hold on to existing customers. Insurance, money-back guarantees, free trial periods, and items sold on finance are all examples of how we're reassured and convinced that we're protected against any real loss.